All right. Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our eighth episode of Season Two's We Are Bay Area YouTube Live Q&A. My name is Rhea and I use she, her pronouns. I'm a facial motion animator at Weta Digital. I'm also a volunteer with the We Are Bay Area team. Our hope through the series, which we started last year when Shelter in Place began, is to provide some education, resources, and a little entertainment to the amazing underrepresented gender identity communities, including women, non binary, and transgender individuals who want to pursue and thrive in the animation industry. So please subscribe to our channel and put down any questions in the chat that you might want us to ask, and we will do our best to answer them at the end. Today, we're chatting with Ann Sidenblad, art director for NBA 2K at Visual Concepts Entertainment, and Yuki Takahashi, lead character artist at Ubisoft. And let's launch right into this. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your journeys, your career paths into the gaming industry? Briefly describe like the beginning of your career to your current positions.
Do you want me to go first, Yuki?
Sure.
Okay.
It was quite an introduction, Rhea. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm happy to be here tonight. It's nice to see everyone. So I started out going to art school. First, I started actually at San Jose State as an undeclared major. I didn't know I wanted to be in the art field, or I didn't know I could be in the art field when I first went to college. And once I discovered I could, I transferred to art school. And I pursued 3D modeling as my main focus. So 3D modeling roots. And from there, I went into TV briefly for an Adult Swim TV show, cartoon. And after that, I made my way to live action film. So I worked on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Golden Compass, Fast and the Furious, Night at the Museum, a couple other live action films doing visual effects as a 3D modeler. And from there, I did a bunch of commercials and jumped over to all CG films, where I did Christmas Carol, Peabody and Sherman, Penguins in Madagascar, and Trolls as a few. And from there, the company PDI had shut down their branch, and I was sort of a little distraught in the industry. It's, various companies had shut down. So I actually went to a hardware startup for a while that did 3D printing and electronics kind of embedded together. So I tried that out for a bit, but ultimately missed the more art side of things. And that's when I came to games, and I joined the Visual Concepts team and NBA 2K as a character artist. And from there, I became the character lead. And then this year was my first year as the art director.
I had no idea you worked on Fast and Furious, Anne.
That's the crown jewel of my career.
That's amazing. That sounds
I was impressed by Narnia. I was like, wow, I love that.
Yeah, that was my first film.
Yeah, you would keep telling me like, I worked on Narnia.
Yeah,
and I heard that like so many times.
It was my first film. And the very first dailies I went into with the music and seeing my work on the big screen, I just had full goosebumps. It was definitely just, I never dreamt it could be true, but it was very exciting. And I try and remember that, and always going forward, just the joy of the industry.
That sounds amazing. I've never worked on, I can go next. My name is Yuki. I'm currently the lead character artist at Ubisoft San Francisco, and I'm working on a new IP called Tom Clancy's X Defiant, which is pretty much everything I can talk about at this moment, but it's coming at one point. I've never worked on films, but I've been everywhere here and there, and I worked on a lot of AAA to indie games, and I also did freelance for a while, did mobile. I've been a character artist for about 20 years now. So how I started is a little bit different, might be from everyone here. I've never actually attended a digital art school. I actually went to fine art school in Japan, and I graduated specializing in oil painting. And at the time, I was pretty determined to become a full-time oil painter. But who makes it, right? So at one point I had to find a job, but I wanted to keep my job somewhat related to something helpful in the future, because I was really determined to become like some sort of artist. That's all I knew. But even then, learning English was one thing, for example. So some skills to add on by working for some random companies. That's how I started. But fast forward, I was in Canada, and then one day, one of my friends found a job post for QA localization tester at EA, and that's when I joined a video game company. And I was pretty lucky. I could convert myself, just meeting the right people and then doing some internship within the company. Eventually, I made myself got into character modeling. That's why I started my modeling career.
That's really awesome, Yuki. And I think Anne and Yuki, you guys both touched upon this. It's such an important aspect to be adaptable in our industry, because you have both switched from so many fields and so many different experiences, right? And
Right. Yeah, I had no idea like a fine art could convert into digital art in the past. I had no idea I could have an opportunity to work for a video game company. I didn't think it's an option in the past. So I'm very lucky, like I could learn everything on the job. So basically our director at the time I met, he gave me 3-day crash course for XSI at the time. And then, practice to make some character head here, and then I'll give you some guideline to push and pull. And okay, now start working the actual game. And that was pretty scary, but it's I feel really lucky I could jump onto it.
I do love that everyone from this industry just comes from so many different paths. Like there's no one way, like a doctor, you kind of have to go to medical school, right? But like for art, everyone finds their way in different ways. And, I know people who've gone all the way through the military and then came back and became artists. Someone went all the way through vet school and then decided, no, I am actually meant to be an artist, and went back to become an artist, and, or self-taught or through art school itself. There's just so many paths. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, even we know someone came from lawyer background too.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's pretty random.
My undergrad was engineering, and I moved into art as well. So yeah, everyone has such an unconventional path, right?
Right. Yeah, I currently work with tech art person who's coming from medical school, and then at one point she decided, I don't want to be a doctor, in America, just getting school debt and everything. And then at one point she found that some sort of job fair or like tech industry for women or some sort of convention, she sort of discovered like, tech art, there's such thing, tech art in video game industry, and then that might be something I want to do. And then she ended up converting her career from being a doctor to tech art person. It's a big jump to me.
Yeah, for sure. What would you guys say inspired you to become an artist, and what keeps you motivated every day to continue growing in your careers? Because you both have been in the industry for a few years now, and it's difficult to find that motivation every day, because some days are a struggle, if we are being completely honest, right? Like just like any job.
Yeah, I've been around for a while, yes. But as I said earlier, I was that nerdy girl growing up, always drawing and making things. And one thing I always knew, I wanted to become an artist, like entire life. That was my thing. So I always knew that's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how and what kind of art. So I don't know. That's my answer. I kind of knew I wanted to be an artist. Yeah.
You knew early.
I did art all the time too, but I didn't realize I could make a living out of it, because you sort of have that stereotype of the starving artist or whatever, and so I just didn't know that like computer graphics was a thing I could do. So it took me a while to figure that out, but once I did, I just jumped all the way in. And there's definitely days where it's hard, because like anything, it is a job, but I'm just so inspired by little things. I think maybe it's just easily amused, but we're working on like a city, and my phone is now filled with just like random pipes that as I've walking around, I see all these pipes on the wall and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I have to take pictures of this. So
I heard about that. You take a lot of photos.
Yeah, whenever I'm on a walk with someone, they're just like, oh, Anne's stopping to take more photos of a wall now with some ivy on the bottom of it. But I'm like, that ivy is so cool. Like we've got to capture that, you know. And so I think just whatever project I'm on, I'm just fully in it. So I worked on like a Target commercial once that was featuring some mayonnaise for some reason in this Target commercial. So like I was making a bologna sandwich for it. Then they're like, accentuate the mayonnaise. And I was like, I've got this. And I was like Googling pictures of mayonnaise. And I was like, you know, I was just into it. So I sort of just jump in and try and find the inspiration in whatever I'm working on. Yeah, maybe I'm just easily amused, but I love it.
Great advice, Anne. I mean, attention to detail is
there's
amazing.
There's joy in like all
right.
sorts of little things. So it's sort of like finding the joy in those day-to-day tasks, I think.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty surprising like how you can get into detail and then fall into that specific rabbit hole sometimes. You know, when you're researching like a certain look of the character or anything, like it could be just a texture, but you just start researching about it and go deeper and deeper. And then next thing I realize I'm looking up about some sort of like local mythology, you know, learning all about it. And then, you can go pretty deep, but yes, I can relate just, you know, paying attention to detail, like without realizing you are doing it.
Yeah,
I would say all artists to some degree are obsessive about
right,
whatever task they're working on,
yeah.
whatever shot they're working on, and
a little bit of a hoarder. Yes.
For sure. Digital hoarder.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I did want to talk about what your current role entails and what you guys do, like a day in the life for both of you, so that all of our audiences are students or recent grads, just so they can get a look into the industry.
Day in the life first. And
right now it's Zoom meetings.
I was gonna say, you know.
Most of the team is still work from home, so it's just a lot of Zoom meetings. I'd say this year, since it's my first year sort of as art director, it's shifted more hands off for me. I've always been a very hands-on artist, so now, like, you know, I can't, that's not the best use of my time, is to not be in there modeling, you know, even though like it's so tempting to go in there and just keep modeling. So for me now, it's a lot more just sort of meeting with each of the teams, trying to understand what their objectives are and what their goals are, so I can help facilitate them as best I can. You know, I've got some visual goals that I'm trying to also share with the team so that we can all kind of have a unified focus as well. But also in terms of understanding what tech they want to be pursuing and how I can help with that, and their internal art goals as well for, you know, structuring files and kind of boring stuff like that. Trying to kind of just understand each team's needs and then get us all moving forward, so that we're all going towards the same goal, which is to make this awesome video game. So just trying to keep everyone on the same page and moving forward and sharing information, because, you know, the game is very much a living and kind of breathing thing that's changing as new ideas come out. And, you know, especially with COVID, you know, sometimes people can get scanned, sometimes they can't. All this sort of stuff is always changing on a day-to-day basis. So it's a lot of it's just sort of adapting to whatever the current situation is, and trying to just make sure that we're making as much progress as possible. So I think that's kind of what I do now, as a less hands-on art.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to less and less hands-on stuff for sure, and all day Zoom meetings. So for me, like as a lead character artist, a lot of planning, organizing, and art reviews. Like, you know, it's pretty bummer as an artist myself, you know, like I can absolutely relate. And like, even though it's so tempting, it's always tempting to even do a little thing myself, but a lot of times I have to let it go, let it go. This is not my, the best use of my time. So like I have to let it go. And then instead I need to delegate or just ask someone else to take care of it. There's always someone better to do certain things, right? Yeah, so that's a little unfortunate, but at the same time, I can get to like focus on more towards, like helping my team, like just, my radar is always like up and just looking to help any way to make my team to work their job smoothly, and then any blockers or any help they need, like basically like I'm sort of like any like random helpers to do it all, just so everything goes smoothly and just run. Yeah.
So you guys,
that's what I do mainly.
Yeah, it sounds like both of you are doing a lot of big picture, like managing, planning, scheduling,
Yes.
making sure your team is on track, on task.
And I do love that very much too. Like it is fun. I love that. I do love that element. And that's sort of how I naturally moved into kind of being a lead too. But there's days where it's like just the simplicity of being an artist. I miss that. But it is very rewarding as well to be kind of like seeing the big picture and helping all these artists. I'm very much about wanting to be with the team. That's always sort of been my thing as an artist. So getting to kind of help direct that is a very exciting opportunity.
Right. Kind of like in a way you're orchestrating the situation, and then when it works out really well, then it's super satisfying. Yes, it made it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happened. And,
well, I helped do that. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful way of putting it, Yuki, orchestrating it. Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. Just putting one music together, right? I'm not a musician, but I'm terrible at it. But yeah. And I can also like get more involved. There's a trade-off, right? I can't get to do like one thing I really love the most sometimes, but at the same time I can get to involve to like bigger picture a lot of times these days, and then I can sort of influence or even make decisions to make decide the look of the characters sometimes, and then when it comes out and then if it's in the game, like it makes me like so excited, like yes.
That's great. What advice would you guys have for students, newcomers, passionate about breaking into the games industry? And how would they pursue a career in gaming? Any kind of specific artistic or technical skills that candidates should like or artists should build upon?
Join us. That's my advice. Do it. We get paid to make video games. Come on, that's so cool. So yeah, I love it. Obviously, I guess, but so I'd say, find what you're interested in. It is going to be a career, right? So and a job at the end of the day. So you should enjoy it. You shouldn't just, I guess you just shouldn't hate it, but yeah, you should find the element that you like. It is fairly specialized. There's more tech artists who are a little more, code specific, right tools for the artists. And then there's actual artists, there's characters, there's environments, there's animators, there's riggers, there's all these different stages. So I'd say like sample some different classes or watch YouTube videos or however you go about it, and kind of find what it is that really makes you passionate and then focus on that. I thought I wanted to be a generalist when I went into school, and then very quickly it was like, nope, modeling's for me, all eyes on modeling at all times. And so I think, kind of finding what works for you and then specializing in that a bit at first, since the industry is pretty specialized.
Yeah, that's so true. Because at first, when I first joined the video game company, I was pretty convinced to myself, like, I'm going to be a UI person because I paint and I do graphic design. So like that would be like my thing. But turns out like I interned for a few weeks, or like I can't remember, like a few months. I hated it in the end. And then, my friends were all this time telling me like, you should try 3D modeling, and I was thinking like, nah, I don't think so. And then once I tried, like I loved so much everything about it. So yeah, like you have to try everything, like a pick and choose. Anything interests you, and then find what makes you excited the most. Like I said earlier, like, like the someone I work with currently, she wanted to become a doctor. So, but she had no idea tech art could be her thing, right? Yeah. So you'll never know. You might find something you really, really love when you keep trying.
Yeah. And I think if you talk to people in the industry, they're very friendly. I certainly have had people just reach out to me randomly, or my parents will have, kids who will ask me questions, and I'll always take the time to answer emails. And I know a lot of people in the industry who do. So if there's an area that you think you might be interested in, like, look into it a little bit, reach out to someone, go onto an art station or those types of websites, and like look at the work of people who do that type of job, and see which ones are interesting to you, and kind of just try and learn more about it as well.
Yeah, doing a little bit research might help too, right? Yeah, because one thing, like, you watch some like a Disney movie and then I want to work on this, but it's so many different disciplines you can choose from to be part of it. And it could be just research, could be as simple as just watch some special features to find out like what it takes to create a movie, and find out what kind of professional disciplines are involved to it, and you might find something you might be more interested in than the other.
Yeah, that's great advice, you guys. I mean, I know for me, what helped is if I wanted to work at a studio, I would like watch the demo reels of artists who are already working there and just kind of see what kind of level I have to hit for my own work to kind of get there, to kind of grow and evolve to that level, to that industry level, right?
Yeah. Did you always know you wanted to become an animator?
Me?
Asking you a question.
I have always wanted to be an artist, like ever since I think I watched Lion King when I was 4 years old. But yeah, I did really like math and physics. I know that's just weird to hear for some people, but I did love it. So I went into engineering, but after my engineering, I was like, don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, kind of need a creative outlet. And that's when I went to Academy of Art to do my master's in animation. It was kind of a very big leap. And I'm really lucky that it worked out.
Right. But you
I'm
love it,
still
right?
a noob, but I'm an animator. I do love it.
Right. Yeah, trying out different things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting when you both mentioned that, you can start off as a generalist, you can just explore what every field does and then find your niche, because a lot of jobs right now in our games industry is very specialized, very focused. So it's definitely good to sort of explore all the options and then kind of zero in on your specialty.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I would say it's important too, to not just say, like, if you go to school, I used to teach part-time, like just on the side at the Academy of Art, teach some online classes. And I very much enjoyed that, but you could tell there were students who were just sort of like definitely phoning it in, and kind of were like, I'm just going to graduate and then get a job. And, like anything, you do have to work at it and you do have to want it. So we have this incredible opportunity to show our portfolio to get a job. It's not just a resume, like, a lot of tech jobs and stuff is just a resume, but it's like we get to actually show our creations and show what we can do. So taking the time to actually make a good portfolio, I think, is really important. And that doesn't just mean the very first model you created and the very first class you made. It's like, it will require practicing beyond that, and, making some really ugly models first, and then, or animation or whatever it is you're into, and then getting a better and stronger portfolio and presenting that work. So I think take advantage of the fact that we get to show what we can do to help us get our jobs, and sort of tailor it, like you were saying, Rhea, to what job you want. If you want to go into Pixar or Disney and do that style of animation, then don't just put a bunch of photoreal stuff on your demo reel, because they want to see more stylized work. So have stylized work, and you can have a couple photoreal things, but definitely kind of tailor it to what you really want to go into, because that's what the companies are going to be looking for.
Right, optimizing your
Definitely.
portfolio for the
Mhm.
position you're applying for.
Yeah.
And then basically like it should also equal to what you want to do there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
This segues great into our next question because I know both of you are involved with hiring process
Yeah.
as well for both your teams.
Yeah.
What do you look for in a gaming demo reel?
Yeah.
What stands out to you, or what would you like to see more of?
Yeah, I think it's very similar. It's just sort of, it is very specialized and there are artists out there. So, for example, on the NBA, we're making a very photoreal game. So sometimes we get applicants that have only stylized art, and it can be incredible stylized art, but we really do want to see like at least one piece that shows that they can do a photoreal application. So I think it's sort of, I always wish, I'm like, man, this is incredible, but I just wish there was that one thing that actually applied to the job that you're trying to get. Maybe
Fair
when I was at
point.
DreamWorks, this would have been, perfect. But so I think, trying to target it and, previously I actually had multiple, it was when we actually sent out video demo reels, I had multiple ones that I would send out. So if I was applying more towards a stylized company, I would send out a reel that focused on my stylized work. And if I was applying to a more live action visual effects, I would send out that demo reel. So I kind of would target my application and the work that I was showing for that company. It's hard when you're just starting out, you don't have that bigger portfolio. So that's why I'd say just like focus on what you really want first. And then you can kind of like add a couple little like, side pieces that kind of complement your work to kind of expand your chances. And then as you go into the industry, you'll sort of just like accumulate a pile of stuff that you can show, which is helpful.
Yeah, like always optimize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just remove weaker pieces. I would say I already answered that question, but always show your best work first on top. Obviously, like with optimization as well for that position you're applying for, and sometimes it's really shocking, like how many prop pieces or absolutely nothing to do with character pieces, but it actually comes up on top. And sometimes it makes me confused, like, why am I looking at this portfolio for what? Is this for, I thought this is for character position, but it's pretty surprising I have to go through so many of them sometimes. So optimization is actually important, and it should align with what you want to do. It's my advice. Oh, and then it's always a good idea to, show your portfolio to your friends or coworkers or schoolmates, teachers, whoever you can access to in the industry, and do some sort of like a pre-review before you submit. It's actually helpful. Like you might be like focused on like, in a way, like you can be into tunnel vision sometimes, and then sometimes you get attached to what you created too much because you're the creator and spend X amount of time on it, right? So you're so proud. So sometimes your judgment can be clouded because of that. So it's always nice to have third person reviewing your work and then point out a few things. So you might be surprised, like you get some helpful opinions from him.
Yeah, Yuki, thanks for bringing that up because that is such a great point. I mean, feedback is a daily part of all our lives as artists,
True.
Hopefully we all get constructive.
You definitely have to get used to feedback.
You have to able to take it, right?
And you have to remember
Embrace
that it's not personal. It's because we're all working towards a game or a film or a TV show, whatever it might be. You're all working towards making that project the best it can be. So it's also good to take some feedback on your reel. Because it's just going to help you grow. And again, hopefully it's constructive feedback.
Hopefully. Like I still do, like to this day, I've been in industry 20 years plus, but I still, when I update something, I'll just send it out to industry friends and hey, just give me your feedback. I'll fix it.
That is so great. Let's see. Next question. As women, how do you thrive in leadership roles in an otherwise male-dominated industry? Because we all know video games is heavily skewed in terms of employees. There's mostly males.
This one I'm gonna go first because I'm gonna steal what Anne said before. And I thought it's so on point.
Go for it.
Yeah, and when we connected together earlier, I mentioned something like I thought it was super on point, and it's so true. It's actually women or not, we just try our best, right? And then the most important thing is like we kind of try to be genuine all the time and try our best to do our job as much as we could. I think that's the key. So it's not that gender related, to be honest. And like obviously, like you might, well, because of the gender, you might have extra obstacles or distractions, but try not to get distracted by those, and just try your best and be real.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then you can go into detail.
No, I mean, I agree. I just, I've always just focused on,
that's your word.
Yeah, I just focus on doing the best job that I can. And, there's nothing that can stop me from that focus. And that's what I can do. And it's worked out for me, so I agree. I try not to, let the gender stuff bother me, and just focus on my job and be good at my job and enjoy my job and share that joy with others. And hopefully that comes across. And yeah.
Right. And, like we've been sort of lucky. I don't know about you, but like, obviously like we've all had some downside of being in industry, but there's always allies, women or not. And people are watching you if you do genuinely try to do a good job. There's always someone watching you. And, like they will eventually help you or find you. And yeah, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah. Do a good job and let your work speak.
Do the good job. Yes.
Do a good job, and your work will speak for itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a good point you also mentioned, just stay focused on your goal. Don't let other things,
don't
things
get distracted.
distract you. Yep. Yeah. That's great. You guys. Anything that you wish you knew before taking on your current role? Any specific artistic, management, or interpersonal skills you wish were taught in art schools to help prepare students better for the industry jobs? Because it is, I don't want to say everyone goes to art school, but it is usually the case. But there are certain things that are not taught in school. So
I think maybe for me, it's, working in the industry, like, a lot of times as an artist, if you're just doing personal projects, you're making art that whatever your personal art is, so you're directing yourself. And when you're working for a company, like you're falling in line and making the art of the vision of the art director or the director or whoever's sort of guiding the project. So, being happy, like in being creative within those constraints, but knowing that you're working towards the bigger vision of the company or the project you're on. So I think, sometimes some of the students I came out of school with kind of fought against that when they got into companies. Were always trying to just interject their own art style so much into it, but it was sort of like they struggled more and had a harder time because they didn't sort of just embrace the bigger picture and sort of, you can still be creative absolutely within, within the work, but it's sort of like knowing that, you're all coming together to make this bigger piece essentially together. I think that's sort of important to remember when you're in the industry.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. Because
it's really
when you're
helpful.
You're working on this personal project.
Yeah.
You forget
and that doesn't mean it's not being creative, at all. And certainly there's moments where you'll be asked to fully design something. And there's moments where you're just asked to follow the directions or make a rock or, something that's like less creative, and that's all fine. It's all part of it. Yeah.
True.
So for me, I love that bigger picture and that part of being an artist. So I think it's good to keep that in mind as you join the industry.
That's true. For me, I was gonna say, I didn't practice enough presentation. I feel like, and like being ESL, I struggled a lot. I didn't really have problem speaking in public in the past, but in different language, maybe a lot of you might be able to relate. But if it's your second language, it raises the bar so high, right? Yeah, suddenly it makes me like such shy person sometimes, which is not true, in many cases. And it's surprising when you're in the industry, like there are, big or small, there are so many occasions you have to present your work and speak about what you've done, or like, so basically like do some reviewing time is something you can never dodge. Yeah, so like you need to be able to speak for yourself, to sell your art piece, or like explain what you've done, or even sell yourself sometimes in interviews. What's your strengths, really, right? If you could practice that in advance, that would be pretty powerful, I think. Just coming from someone who struggled for long years.
Oh, I can relate to that. English is also not my first language.
Yeah,
And it
so
can be a little intimidating.
yeah, I'm still struggling. So, I wish, like practice only makes it more comfortable, right?
Yeah. Well, you are both very strong communicators, so don't even worry about it.
I try.
um, let's see. Next one, I do want to talk about crunch a little bit, because crunch has right now become an unavoidable part of the animation industry as a whole, be it VFX or video games. Every artist has experienced crunch in some way or another, and it's unfortunately an industry standard. At this point, what would be your advice on surviving crunch and avoiding burnout?
It's a tough one. I can say, first of all, I don't support crunch at all. But I know I've been around, and you can't avoid it at the same time. So managing yourself is going to be really, really important. So for me, I'm not saying I'm practicing this like perfectly yet. I'm still struggling. But creating some sort of, well, especially now most of us work from home during the COVID. So it's extra important to give yourself cutoff time, I found. So, like you start at 9 a.m., for example, and then you're supposed to finish at 6 p.m. And no company should tell you have to do overtime, in theory. They can't do that by law, for example,
It's
right?
supposed to be voluntary.
Yes, so like, I don't want anybody to feel like you have no choice but doing crunch. So like if you decide, okay, I'm going to cut this off, maybe I'm going to add 1 hour volunteer time and then finish 7 p.m. Then once that time hits, then it's absolute cutoff time, and then stick to it. And basically like sign off your computer and just don't even look at it. Don't check your smartphone and stop answering messages, period. If you can stick to it, you'll be good. But I know like it doesn't work the way it is. Right? I'm struggling too. But first you have to try and then do your best of your work, obviously. But if you still have to do it, then maybe the system as a whole is not working. Maybe it can be as simple as you need to hire someone to help you. You may be taking too much things on your plate. So again, like please don't feel like you have no choice. You should, once you started feeling like you're drowning because of it, you should always speak out about it to your managers or whoever you can talk to, and then raise questions like, is there any way to improve the situation? Like, is there anybody you can hire? You should always talk about that.
Yeah, it's It's a hard subject.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I don't mind some crunch, or maybe more like a sprint. Because for me, it sort of like focuses everything into what's really important, and can be a little bit team bonding and stuff. But that's when it's not taken to the extreme where it's just grinding for months on end. That's kind of where it's really draining. But I would say I don't do a great job balancing that, and stop checking my email and stuff. I think smartphones have made that harder, and work from home has made that harder. And
I know there's a, sort of like crunch high too, right?
yeah,
That I can't deny.
yeah, I know.
It is,
Yeah, it's like I'm getting this done, and I'm
this
passionate
done.
about
Yes.
what I'm
Yeah.
doing, and you're in the zone, and so I think there is some power to that as well, but sort of in balance. But I definitely say if you are struggling or reaching that burnout point, please do reach out to someone and let them know, because they will find a way to make sure you get your weekend off, or do some little thing to help you recharge, for sure. So not just holding it in, I think is key.
Yeah, in the end of the day, we're not saving the world, so this is a video game we are creating, so anything can wait until next day.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
It's hard.
I say
when you're in it, it's hard to realize that, because you're so focused.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a good point. We are making entertainment, right? We're creating entertainment, and we have to remember to take care of ourselves. And I think talking to your producers, I mean, like I would always talk to my producer if I needed like a weekend off or something. That is definitely an important point. Communication is important, because if you're just drowning alone.
Yeah.
I want to do such a good job, and so sometimes you think that means more overtime, and that isn't always the case. But
right. For us, because we are in sort of management position, so like I want to be more responsive to if someone is asking questions, and if I'm becoming the blocker, I want to respond right away. I want to get this done right away. So that's my problem. But you shouldn't. Really. I'm just telling myself that all the time.
One day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time, and anything can wait until next day. Yeah.
Another sort of difficult topic to talk about is, I know, studio closures or mass layoffs, another like harsh reality of our industry. How do you handle layoffs, and how do you keep moving forward?
Yeah, I've definitely been at quite a few film studios as they shut down, and yeah, it's hard because you're invested. I love the people I work with. I like the projects I'm on. I've made friends. I've got a house, rented a house or whatever it is, sort of have roots there. So it is definitely very hard. I will say, when I first started in the industry, it was a lot scarier for me because, I didn't have a lot of, experience to rely on. And now, I have a network of people I've worked with. So if I was unemployed, I, have a much bigger network to reach out to. And, I've also saved up a little nest egg because, this industry can be a little wild sometimes. So at first, when I didn't have any of that, it was scarier. But at this point, it's not something I'm afraid of, just because, I've been through it so many times that it's just sort of like, oh, I know I'm going to be okay. Every job that I've gone to after a layoff, I've loved the people I've worked there. I've reconnected with people I've worked with in the past, which is a joy as well. And so you're just sort of, even at Visual Concepts, I'm working with people that I worked with 10 years ago at a company that was shut down. And, we've kind of reconnected and we picked up right back where we left off. And it's just been really delightful. So I think trying to see that side of it. That being said, it's also like sad because it's like closing something that you are a part of, and as an artist you're so invested in creatively, so it's definitely a part of the roller coaster of the industry. But just all the places it's led me to after have been also amazing. So
right. Yeah, industry is really small, so like it just happens. It is what it is, right? But after a layoff or every time I change job, like I always end up working with someone I worked in the past always, pretty much. I'll come back in the circle at one point. Yeah. So like Anne said, like at this point, it doesn't scare me at all. At first, like the first time I got let go, it was way more scarier because that was right after I purchased the first condo or something, and then my mortgage was about to start, and I got let go, and then what am I gonna do? And this is beginning of my career too, so I didn't know how fast I could find next job. But at this point, it is what it is. I can pretty much take it. And the good news is, like, if you're in the industry and then if you get let go, nobody cares, why you got let go, because it happens too often. Nobody will take it as a negative thing. Like, will be just, I'm sorry it happened. But I'm pretty sure it's not your performance, right?
Yeah. And at this point, if a company shuts down that I'm at, then in fact, I have people reaching out to me like through the network that I've worked with in the past that they're like, hey, I don't have the job opening right now, but I know this person who has a job opening.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, that's how it
sort
works.
of like, it's reassuring too, to just kind of have people like kind of putting their little feelers out for you.
We sort of create a support group, right? Without knowing. When you hear some studios shutting down and then everybody's on it right away.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I need more artists. Come over here.
Someone, we're hiring, we'll get them as well. We can, pick them, right?
It's been sort of beautiful watching the animation industry come together at moments like that, when a studio shuts down and all the recruiters are on it. Everyone's trying to reach out to the artists. And I know, like, we had organized, like at VC, we had organized sort of a mixer for everyone who had been laid off at a certain studio in the Bay Area. So it's really nice that the studios are jumping in to network and help artists.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, that's why you want to stay connected. That's pretty important.
It's a small industry.
And don't be that person everybody hates,
This is true. Be a good person to work with.
Be a good person to work with.
A good team player.
If everybody, have found memory working with you, then they'll reach out to you.
Everyone wants a pleasant coworker, for sure.
Yes, for sure.
This is a bit of a broader question, but where do you see the future of gaming heading towards? I know recently there's been, like, with the release of MetaHumans, I mean, it's all hyper-realistic animation, like hyper-realistic everything. with VR taking a boom, with mobile games, real-time rendering engines, like everything is just exploding right now in the gaming industry. What are your thoughts on that?
What's your thoughts, Anne?
Well, it seems like right now the gaming industry is growing, and that doesn't show signs of stopping. So that's good news. I can't predict exactly where it's going. I will say, like, technology is going to get better. Processes, everything's getting better. More machine learning, more tools, more scans, more everything, and just sort of as you're getting into the industry, being aware of that, and like, it's okay that the industry is going to be changing and tech is going to be changing, and sort of accepting that. And as long as you're just sort of following along with the changes and being willing to adapt yourself and your art as well, I think you'll do fine. Like, I know when I first started in the industry, 3D scanning was becoming more and more popular, and everyone was like, it's going to take away all the 3D modelers' jobs. Like, no one's going to have a 3D modeling job. Right. And here I am,
15 years later,
we're still doing work than ever because of scanning. And so I think it's just sort of, my job has changed in that now, we're processing more scans and stuff like that, but all it does is mean we can do even more because we have such a good starting point. So I think it's just, adapting and embracing these new technologies and not being like afraid of them, but it just kind of going along with them. Then you'll be able to kind of keep up with and move along with the trends.
Right. Like Anne's saying, adapting to it constantly is pretty key here, I think. You can always fall back and then stop learning and, just forget everything about it. But that's not how to survive in a way, So technology is advancing. That's actually a blessing thing to see because, we can use more and more like a dense high poly, for example, and then we can go into more detail, right? We can do more beautiful things. So that's actually a good thing. But you just have to adapt to yourself, learn more, technologies or like what's in and out.
That
Basically
can be tiring a little bit.
it is hard, actually. Yeah.
But it's exciting, and
but it's
companies
also
will
exciting.
usually help you, because companies are also trying to adapt to these
Right.
new technologies. So as long as you're, a part of that and not just resisting it, but like, okay, yeah, I'll try it out. And
Right.
even if it makes you go a little slower at first, but in the end, it'll make you go faster. If the company's willing to teach you that skill, then yeah, jump on board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no point resisting it, right? This is the way I do it, and you can't stick to it. Just be more flexible, I guess.
Yeah, and animation is such a perfect blend of art and tech that both of you said, like, we have to just embrace the tech developments and run with it, because that's the only way to move forward.
I love it. And I love the nerdy techie side of it.
I love technology.
And it's making all these new tools and softwares are making our jobs, easier to do more cool things. So I'm not wasting my time on these repetitive, tedious steps. It's like, no, I can jump right into the like cool parts now.
Right. Yeah, it makes me kind of like, change my view when I want to just enjoy a movie or just play a video game. Like, sometimes I see something amazing in films or a video game I'm playing, and then, oh my God, this hair looks amazing. How do they do that? Right? And then these eyeballs look amazing, or animation, like, the game like Last of Us, like a newest one, like facial animation is, right? Beauty. How do they do that? So like I can, right? Yeah, I can just totally nerd out about it, and then makes me want to learn, like, how did they do this? I want to steal what they did, want to investigate to recreate whatever they did. So like, you want to be interested.
It's important to be curious. It's important to be open, right?
Right. And then hopefully
fun.
Hopefully it makes you excited seeing things like that, and then, want to learn more about it. And
that's a great approach for everything that's coming out new. We do have to jump to audience questions as soon. But I did want to, just as a last question, I did want to talk about, recently there's been, a lot of news reports about women and other marginalized communities having experienced toxic work environments in certain studios, especially in our industry. I'm really glad that this information is coming out in public, because hopefully this will, eventually lead to safer work environments for everyone, because everyone deserves to work in a safe environment. Have either of you experienced a toxic workplace? If you did, how did you break away from it? Or if someone is experiencing that right now, what would your advice be to them?
It's a hard question. First of all, I can't speak for my company, so this is my personal opinion. But it's really good for them. I mean, like, I'm so sorry, like, if anything bad happens to you, and then if you have to come out of it years later or whatever, it's so unfortunate. And then but it's good for you speaking out. I really want to support that. And that goes to my point, kind of like crunch time situation. Like, I don't want you to feel like you need to shut up about it, or you have nobody to talk to. Like, a safe working environment is all we want. Obviously, right? All I want, right? So, like, please just don't go to the dark side and then focus on the distraction too much. And then please always know you will have always someone you can talk to. And when it happens, talking about it to someone right away is pretty important, I think. Like, it's kind of like, I shouldn't use example like dog training, but like when dog did something wrong, like it's pretty important to just do it right away, fix it right away, because dog doesn't have like long memory span or something like that. But I can relate to it a little bit, because a lot of times when someone is telling you hurtful things or like something you don't appreciate, they are not that aware, to be honest. Like it affects you the most, but someone who affects you negatively don't have any idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like if anything happens, like I'm not telling you to like be ready to fight right away or anything like that, but maybe like a question, like why this person is telling you certain things, and then such a good idea, to tell me so.
Mm-hmm.
So then, that will sort of like give that person realization of, oh, maybe I did say something stupid, yeah. I'm losing a little bit point, but
I think it's
Oh,
hard to say something in the moment a lot of times, just because
yeah, true.
you don't want to be confrontational or something like that. But
Mhm.
I think a lot more companies are starting to have sort of employee resource groups
Mhm.
that are
mm-hmm.
there to help support different groups of people. And so I think, reaching out and seeing if your company has those types of group and joining them and stuff is a good option. And I think as companies become more aware of these issues and are trying to put better, resources for
Mhm.
employees in place, I think those can be great places that if you are experiencing something, that you can reach out to and find some allies who can, you can run it by, you can ask for feedback, you can kind of have support groups that you need to help sort out the situation. So I think, I don't remember being aware of those types of groups when I first started in the industry, but I
True.
definitely know more companies have them now. So I think that's a great resource, so that you can, find people to help support you through anything you're going through.
Yeah, that's very important. For one, to speak up, and if that's not something you can do, speak to allies or speak to these resources that your company has, your studio has. I think it also helps to, maybe if you can't speak to someone in person, send out an email so there's a paper trail, and send out an email to a bunch of people, to your supervisors, to your producers, just so they are made aware and it's on record. I
Right,
think that's
right.
also important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it is really hard to speak out, but please always know there's always your allies around you. So there's always someone you can talk to.
Yeah, a safe, comfortable work environment is key. So
Yes. All right, that was great. Good advice. Let's move on to some audience questions. And I do want to be, respectful of your time. So I hope it's all right if we move on to audience questions.
Yeah.
How do you feel the game industry has changed for women over the years? That's the first question.
Changed us?
No, how has the game industry changed for women over the years? Or have you not noticed anything?
I started in film. I guess it's sort of similar.
Mhm.
I've been in games for only about 6 years now, but I'd say there's more women now than when I started, so
Mhm.
that's good.
That is true. Especially the current team I work is actually really amazing. We're hiring, by the way. Um, Shameful
We're
advertisement.
hiring too.
We're hiring.
All right, there's a plug for both
Call me.
studios.
Yeah, actually, there are a lot of women leadership in my team, and it's been blessing. 20 years ago, I couldn't say the same thing. It was full of men, and we could just count women like in like 1 or 2 hands out of 2,000 people or something like that. But now it's massively changed. Yeah, that's my impression, and that's a good thing.
Oh, for sure. Definitely a good thing. Yeah. It is important to see women in leadership roles. I think that's why we wanted to highlight the two of you.
Right. Yeah, and then I do strongly believe diversity makes the team
Mhm.
or the company stronger,
Yes,
for sure. That's definitely proven. So,
it is, yes. Um, I think this is an interesting question. What are some of the ways you work to improve your skills to progress your career once you'd already broken into the industry? So once you already have a job, because not too often people take, classes after you
mm,
already been in the industry. So what would your advice be on that?
I would keep taking classes, whatever interests you. Me personally, I keep drawing, and I never stopped actually. Yeah, and then even just outside of work, I tend to go live drawing like when it was normal time, and I do once a week figure sculpting in-person classes as well. For me, like brushing up or like always in um, practicing art is my thing. So I would recommend anything interests you, like why not stop, keep taking classes.
Yeah, I've definitely taken a few extra classes. I've
Mhm.
even had work pay for some classes for me.
Mhm.
You just sort of present it to them, and sometimes they'll be like, yeah, or split it or whatever, which is great.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just, you know, like doing art on the side as much as I can. It kind of comes in, inspirational waves.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I just need
True,
to
true, true.
relax on the sofa, but
Yeah,
uh,
I can relate.
yeah, yeah. I think, and then once I got in, I was focused mostly on modeling. Not everyone wants to be a lead and kind of all the meetings and management that comes with it. So, some people just want to be like a really powerhouse artist, and that's incredible as well. Um, but I was sort of interested in leadership. So through that, I just really tried to keep a lookout for like, what are the teams after me doing and what are the teams before me doing, so that I could help, see the bigger picture beyond just my department. And, that led me to working with more other teams, because all of a sudden I was having these conversations with them, which then led me to, more conversations and more bigger picture tools. And so for me, that's how I sort of expanded my knowledge outside of modeling, is just really being interested in what everyone else was doing and how what I could do could help their teams more. And, um, you know, they love, other teams love that. Of course, you're trying to make their life
Mhm,
easier, and it helps the project as a whole too, because now you get to spend more time actually iterating on the art rather than just sort of like fighting the process. So I
mhm.
think for me, getting in and really learning more about, all the other teams and how they're connected was of interest for me in growing and sort of into the leadership role as well.
That is true. I love learning what the other people do, like
Mhm.
including engineering. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
sometimes doing like a quick show and tell from different department helps so much. Like it's
absolutely.
so
Mhm.
impressive sometimes. Like I would just randomly go over to like a rendering engineer's desk, for example, and then show me what you do and explain that to me like 5 years old. And then it just genuinely impresses me, and it's so fun to learn about it. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
then in the end it helps to see more like a big picture as a
Mhm.
whole, and yeah, helps the project in the end as well, so it's pretty useful.
Those are some great advice. I know, like, I'm an animator, but I would definitely go and bother all the riggers and be like, how do you do this?
Tech
And
art,
how do you
yes,
do that?
yes, I
Yeah.
love, yeah. I love
Yeah.
bugging tech art too.
Yeah, I love tech art. And I would be like, how do you rig this? And I know
Show
when
me
I
what you do.
requested
Yeah.
composites, they were like, it was such a hands-on learning experience. And it was such a fun challenge to do. So definitely
Right,
branch
right.
out to other departments.
Yeah, just go over and speak to me rigging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll be happy to that you're showing an interest in their team too. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
want to show you,
Hmm.
it's sort of mutually beneficial.
Hmm.
Yeah, most people I think are so passionate about whatever field they're in, whatever department they're in, that they
Hmm.
definitely want to share
Mhm.
their
Yes,
knowledge.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And almost, I mean, for the most part, I want to say most people are nice,
Yeah.
and will
Yeah.
encourage you, will
Mostly,
teach
yes.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to go in and ask someone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And you
Yeah.
find a few grumpy ones, and all right, so you don't bother
Right,
them in the
right, right.
future. You just find,
Right,
you
right.
find your
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it can
also
start
important
off,
not to
yeah.
bother them if they're busy. I guess
Yeah.
that's when they might
True,
be
true, true, true.
grumpy. So be
Right.
respectful of
Of
other
course.
people's schedules.
But also it can start as grumpy, but it can improve over time when you keep trying.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Um, let's see. This is, I guess, for Yuki, but Anne, please feel free to chime in. Do you have any tips for presenting when English is your second language?
I want that tip actually. Well, what I found was only practice,
Mhm.
repeat and practicing makes that eventually perfect. And knowing what you are selling, know your product first, right?
Mhm.
What is the thing you're trying to sell? Like, just channeling into like car salesman mindset, for example. If you're selling a car, you need to know what kind of car you are selling, and then you need to know what kind of function is the key features, and then price, and how good deal this is, for you, right? And then, yeah, it's like if you know what you're selling deeply, I think it'll come pretty naturally. Like, what you're explaining very well, then it'll come after, I think. Yeah. I'm still practicing, so.
So am I.
Yeah.
And what about you? Any thoughts?
No, that was well said.
Thanks, Yuki. Let's see. I think we covered a lot of the other ones. I want to say before we end, any other last piece of advice you have for our audience? Any parting words of wisdom?
Anne?
Be engaged with the project, be engaged with art, be engaged with the industry community. Don't we're kind of just shy, nerdy artists at heart, at least a lot of us are. I am.
Mm-hmm.
So reaching out and to a stranger isn't always, or coming on a YouTube channel to talk is not always my first nature, but putting yourself out there is really rewarding, and you'll make new connections and have a great community. And so I just say be engaged with what you're doing and the people around you.
Well said. Yeah. Please don't be afraid of reaching out. Networking is not a bad thing at all. So like you can start from LinkedIn, or even like being part of this community is actually an excellent place to start with. This is absolute safe space, and then you can interact with people in the same situation, or people who are already in the industry, and that's a great place to be. And be out there if possible, like a GDC, any talk or any women group, or any like modelers group, animators group, whatever interests you, and keep learning.
Well, that is great advice. Thank you so much. And thank you both for coming on our YouTube panel. I know it's not something that's easy for any of us. So thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experiences, and giving such amazing advice. We really appreciate your time. And both of you are such inspirations to me. And I hope the audiences feel the same way. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being part of our We're Bay Area community, and good luck on your animation journeys.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Give it a few seconds. I hope you guys have fun.
Are we still live?
Not sure, honestly.
But this can be cut, right?
confirmation.
This can be cut, right?
Yeah. Waiting for the